looking at the tabs on a publication or research output item, let's take a look at the Deposits tab. Before we dive in here, and by way of a bit of context first of all, Elements offers a range of market-leading bi-directional repository integrations with a number of institution repositories, including Figshare for institutions, DSpace, EPrints and Hyrax. This bi-directional or two-way integration means that researchers can choose where to deposit their works from, so they can either deposit directly into the linked repository, if that's their preferred route, for Elements to then harvest from as a data source once the item is made public, or alternatively, researchers can use Elements' inbuilt deposit workflow to deposit directly into the linked repository from within Elements. Uploaded files are pushed to the repository in real time, together with the metadata about the output that's already in Elements, and a record is then immediately harvested back into Elements from the repository to align the two systems. Regardless of which pathway to deposit the researcher chooses, the bidirectional integration between Elements and the linked repository means that updates to the item in either system can be automatically reflected on the deposited work in both systems, irrespective of where the initial deposit was made and without the need to rekey data in multiple systems. We're going to take a look at the configurable deposit workflow from Elements to Figshare in this example, but the process that you'll see here is pretty much the same for each of the 4 repository platforms that Elements integrates with. For each depositable item, researchers are presented with a clear action to deposit into the linked repository, here on the Summary tab, as well as within the Deposits tab. The deposit action, regardless of which tab it's clicked from, takes the researcher through to the simple Elements deposit wizard. Here on the left, you can see Deposit Advice. This is configurable by institution administrators to provide as much information and guidance as necessary. And we also have embedded Sherpa Romeo advice here too, in order to provide additional clarity if needed. We have 3 tabs running across the top here. Add OA Location is where a researcher can optionally provide a link to the full text if it's available. Add an Exception is where researchers can also optionally set an exception for the file deposit if necessary. But for this demonstration, we're going to upload a file here that will then deposit into Figshare. The deposit workflow is configurable, and in this example we have 3 simple steps configured. First of all, the researcher will choose the file or files to deposit. Clicking Use this file reveals additional, optional and configurable workflow steps, where the researcher can select a reuse license, for example, optionally specify an embargo, and also optionally be prompted to select the license for the repository prior to depositing. Once these configurable steps are complete, clicking the deposit action initiates the deposit process. The deposit action takes the file uploaded by the researcher as well as the metadata that Elements has harvested or collected for the item and deposits directly into the linked repository in real time within a couple of seconds and with minimal effort. As soon as the item has been deposited via this route, Elements immediately harvest a record back from the repository, which you can see here in the Sources tab, aligning the two systems straight away. If we click back into our Deposits tab, you can also now see details about the deposit, which in this case is sitting in a configurable review queue in the repository prior to approval and publishing. Thanks to the bidirectional integration in play here, when the item is approved and published by the repository, the status is updated and automatically reflected here in Elements without the need to manually synchronize the records across the two systems. Similarly, and as mentioned previously, should further updates be made to the item's metadata, either in Elements or in the repository itself, these updates can also be automatically crosswalked and reflected in both systems, ensuring that Elements and the repository are aligned without the need for double keying.